Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop. The weekly quest drama continues. Blizzard has made the promised changes, but they do not meet the expectations of the community. Now weekly tasks will waste twice as much of your time, rather than triple. To be honest, I expected that the players' rebellion would lead to completely different results. Community manager RegisKillbin says this is not the last round of updates. Developers study reviews and collect statistics to offer optimal solutions. Despite this, some involved players continue to leave the game. I've read a lot of comments that are filled with disappointment and despair. It feels like Blizzard is ignoring the community's reaction and continuing to implement its strategy. Should players continue their boycott? And is deleting the game the best solution to influence Blizzard?
Dora, we also did not expect that the changes would be half-hearted, but we are not surprised. In this video, we discuss the damage that player protests have caused to the company, and the reasons why Blizzard does not want to abandon its plan.
We will share our impressions and experiences from completing the changed quests. Also, we will try to find the answer to the question: is it worth leaving Hearthstone and calling for a boycott of purchases in the game?
If you don't know anything about this drama, here's a short summary. Blizzard has suddenly decided to rethink its approach to weekly quests, which are the most important source of resources for casual players. They increased the reward by about 20%, but made the fulfillment conditions much more difficult by 3 times or more. After the community outcry, they admitted that they had gone too far but did not abandon this approach, just slightly lowered the conditions for completing tasks. I've been reading a ton of posts on Reddit over the past few days and it's made me feel very sad, since active players began to increasingly call casuals and simply caring players whiners.
Blizzard's reluctance to completely abandon their idea confirms our theory that this change is not an accident or a mistake. Most likely, this is a clearly verified plan that has specific tasks. In our opinion, this is a hidden attempt to change the progression system for some groups of players.
Moreover, conflicts between players shift the focus from Blizzard's outright bad decision to just a controversial decision, as players begin to defend the new approach more aggressively. This plays into Blizzard's hands.
Bot, in one of the previous videos, you said that you created a new account to study the experience of new players. How did these changes affect your progression?
I didn't have much time to play last week. I logged into a new account once every 2 days. In order to complete the quest with Miniaturize, I had to go to the casual format and create a special deck. It took me 5 matches to complete the task. It should also be taken into account that my collection is not complete. Sometimes I came across opponents with meta decks, which did not allow me to concentrate on the conditions of the quest. I spent more than 40 minutes and it was very boring and not interesting at all. The quest using hero powers was completed relatively quickly and did not require any effort from me. The biggest problem was the quest for 10 wins in ranked mode. We are filming this video on Sunday and I need one more victory to complete it. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that I will have time to complete the quest. I've been experimenting a lot with budget builds in the past week and haven't really cared about my win rate. This experience was fun and interesting for me. Yesterday I had to go back to my budget Plague Death Knight build and spend several hours to advance in diamond rank, but I failed to achieve the last victory.
So if you have limited time during the week, you will need to play mostly meta decks, preferably aggressive ones, and also create special decks for the casual format to complete some quests as quickly as possible. You may not have time to have fun or play in other modes. If you are unhappy with the current metagame, you will still be forced to play to get a reward. If you, as a bot mathematician, do not receive enough victories due to lack of time or desire to continue, then you will lose 3000 XP, which is equivalent to 100 gold coins, for which you can buy a pack. This is a very important reward for free-to-play players, especially for beginners. Thus, for casual and new players, Hearthstone turns into a job devoid of fun. As an experienced player, I found the new quests easy to complete. I completed them in one long play session, but they certainly didn't make my time more enjoyable. Especially considering the fact that a 20% increase in rewards is an illusion.
Under these conditions, the experience of new players will not be the most pleasant. Getting 10 wins even at low ranks can take quite some time for this category of players, but as they move up the ladder, the amount of time will increase.
I was very unlucky in the last 4 matches and I couldn't win the last victory. I was very disappointed, not by the fact of defeat, but by the fact that I could not complete the most valuable quest. I've never felt pressured by the game before. Instead of fun, I got routine and negative emotions. For the first time, I felt the urge to delete my account and give up researching the experiences of new players. At the moment, I have completely lost the desire to continue playing like a beginner.
When players discuss these changes, they completely ignore the experience of new players. Even if you are a casual player, completing tasks will be much easier for you than for beginners. The feeling of putting in the effort and not being able to get the reward due to lack of skills, bad luck, or because your deck is too weak is extremely frustrating. The quest to use miniaturize looks like a mockery, as it deliberately forces players to spend significantly more time on boring things. All of this can lead to a terrible experience. The current situation is somewhat similar to the progress I had at Marvel Snap. The game required me to be constantly active to complete the local rewards track. I breathed a sigh of relief after I stopped playing. Being forced to log into the game more often for fear of losing a reward is not fun, but rather feels like work.
My fellow reporter Sarah from rival newspaper Out of Game has an excellent article. She analyzes in detail all the negative chain of recent changes in Hearthstone. Early access to Corridor Sleeper, the extremely controversial the Hearth to Hearth bundle, the disappearance of the Diamond Legendary card from the pool of achievement rewards, and the removal of the Duels mode. The situation with the quests became the last straw for her and she decided to delete the game, because she did not feel that it corresponded to the new status of an active player. Ultimately, she calls for continuing the fight and boycotting purchases in order to harm Blizzard's profits. I was very inspired by this article. Guys, should we do more and also join the boycott until the company completely abandons its idea?
Dora, what I have to say may not be liked by the audience, and may cause an extremely negative reaction, but we believe that boycotts, calls for refusal of purchases, demonstrative deletion of accounts, and hate are a destructive strategy. I really hope that we never have to resort to such methods. Feeling disappointed can be unpleasant. If you feel that the relationship has become toxic, taking a break or deleting the game is the right decision. Your mental health is much more important. Games should be fun and not stressful.
But very often, upset players demand revenge and their goal is to cause as much damage to the game as possible. There were a large number of messages on Reddit about the removal of the game and a boycott of purchases. There are also plenty of similar comments under our previous video. The problem is that this strategy is not effective and harms absolutely everyone: the community, developers, content creators, and the future of the game. Moreover, it is unlikely that you will be able to scratch the management of Blizzard or Microsoft, who may be behind these changes, but you will definitely cause damage to the game and the developers who put a lot of passion and effort into it. Instead of staying and finding out how this situation will be resolved, your dramatic leaving will be a gift for the company, since the community will be reduced to another toxic player.
So you are calling for ignoring the problem? Guys, when did Microsoft manage to buy you? I wouldn't be surprised if you start advertising Xbox Game Pass soon.
No, ignoring is also a bad strategy. We offer constructive dialogue. Give this innovation a chance and write a non-hysterical review on social networks. Share your experience about completing quests. Perhaps you see benefits from new tasks. These opinions are also important, but in this case, please describe how these changes affected your gaming experience.
Suggest your ideas. Discuss the concept of quests in general. Encourage your favorite influencers to share their thoughts. For unknown reasons, many popular members of the community ignore this topic. You can leave the game at any time, but now your experience and your impressions are important to the community and to the developers. We understand that this sounds extremely unconvincing, but Blizzard will hear you even without threats and boycotts. This company has almost no communication skills and has very poor hearing among other problems, but they will definitely hear the choir of community voices. The Hearthstone team most often reacts adequately in such situations, but they are very clumsy and need more time to nod their heads as a sign that the claims have been heard.
In other words, you are proposing a peaceful demonstration instead of a radical protest? You are extremely naive if you think this strategy can work. If the community had not taken aggressive action after Blitzchung was disqualified, they would not have been able to achieve justice. Also, don't forget about the protests after the release of Rewards Track. It was extremely aggressive and led to positive changes.
Community influence was definitely an important component in both situations. But let's look at the facts. In the first case, Blizzard did not abandon the ban completely, but only cut it in half. They also returned the prize money but did not apologize, even though the resonance of this scandal was international. The company did not change its position. We still sometimes see comments from players who have not forgiven Blizzard for this behavior.
Players think that aggressive protest can change something, but the gaming industry is not politics. The situation with rewards track is much more interesting. The boycott of players also did not produce any visible results. The developers made the system more convenient, but I am sure that they would have done the same without aggressive pressure from the community. In addition, they moved some of the rewards from the event category directly to the reward track, which did not change the balance of resources. In our previous video you can see all the differences between the current progression system and the old one. These situations are very similar. In both cases, the aggressive behavior of the players did not harm the people who make the decisions, but did cause serious blows to the game and the development team.
I see another common feature. In both cases, Blizzard could not go back on its decisions due to the potential threat of loss of profits. In the Blitzchung situation, they could have lost the Chinese market and millions of dollars. Liberalization of rewards track and a significant increase in free resources beyond the balance would destroy the game's economy and deprive players of the need to make purchases. Thus, regardless of the resonance of the scandal and the loss of image, Blizzard cannot be forced to make compromises if this could deprive them of income.
Exactly. This behavior strategy is typical for any company, not just Blizzard. We have concerns that in the situation with quests, the company will not completely abandon its plans.
If you watched our previous videos, then you know our theory about the true motives for changing the quest system. If Blizzard were really interested in creating goals for the most active players, they would use a tiered quest system. You won't need much mental effort to come up with the most optimal implementation, which was instantly submitted by one of the Reddit users. So the motives are different. The progression system is too friendly for casual players. They are able to get a large amount of resources with minimal effort. We can assume that the total number of casual players is significantly greater than the active fans who play every day. Typically, engaged players who spend more time in the game tend to spend more money. Perhaps Blizzard has two goals in mind. Firstly, in this way they can try to increase the involvement of casual players, which will allow some of them to become active players. If they start spending more time in the game, they may have more reasons to spend money. Players who do not want to spend additional effort will lose some of the free resources. In order to stay afloat, they will also receive an incentive to make a purchase in the shop. Even if they leave the game, it won't be a big loss for the company. Moreover, if the activity of players decreases towards the end of the expansion phase, they will also be punished by the new system. Considering that Hearthstone's revenues are slowly dwindling, at least in the mobile market, this seems more like a move of desperation. In our opinion, the decrease in profits is not associated with a decrease in the audience, but rather is a consequence of ineffective monetization. If our theory is correct, and Blizzard has no other alternative plans to increase revenue, then an aggressive boycott or peaceful demonstration will not force the company to abandon its plans. But still, a calm discussion will not harm the development team who are not involved in the current incident.
I would like to draw your attention to some interesting data. According to App Magic statistics, the game's revenue on mobile platforms has increased significantly after the release of the new season of Battlegrounds. These are very approximate data that should not be taken too seriously, but we can draw one convincing conclusion. The boycott did not convince players to stop making in-game purchases. Moreover, the game has the potential to earn a little more money in April than usual during the second post-release month of the expansion. And one more piece of news, Blizzard has once again blocked 240,000 accounts for resorting to botting. Under these circumstances, Blizzard may not even notice the deletion of several thousand accounts as a protest.
That is why we believe that aggressive calls or boycotts are not capable of causing significant damage. It's just a way to let off steam. But we understand the players' disappointment. I'll be honest, over the past few years I have felt more and more often that the game does not live up to my expectations. It's sad, but I have no desire to harm Blizzard or the game in general.
In any case, all that remains for us at the moment is to share our own experience of interacting with new quests and hope for speedy improvements from the developers. This is a highly unusual incident, and we are looking forward to the outcome. Will the community be able to unite? Will Blizzard completely abandon its manipulation scheme? We'll find out very soon.
Dear friends, did you manage to complete new weekly quests last week? How are things going with quests this week? Have the new challenges made your experience more interesting, or are they turning your playtime into a chore? Share your thoughts in the comments and join the polls in the community tab.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.